Hey folks, it's Alex Blencarn. I'm back at the kitchen table. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about the residential real estate market for the month of September 2022 in the city of Peterborough, Ontario. So, a bit of a slow month. That kind of tends to be the consensus for the month of September. When we're looking at the amount of activity, so for the month of September, we only had 78 sales for the whole month. That is a yearly low. Besides January. January was around, I believe, 50 or 60 sales. So we're above January, but January tends to be a very slow month for real estate. This comes in at the second lowest at 78 sales for the month. Now, if we're looking at the absorption rate, this is something that we can calculate by taking the number of new listings and taking the number of sales, and we'll take those sales and divide them by the number of new listings. What we'll do is we'll get a decimal. That decimal for this month is 0.57. Now what I did was I took the absorption rate for the last 5 years in the month of September and averaged it out, and it came to 0.8. So the absorption rate this year in 2022 was 0.57, and the previous 5 years, the absorption rate averaged 0.8. The absorption rate is a metric we can use to measure the level of supply and demand in the marketplace. 0.57 compared to 0.8 is a huge difference. It demonstrates that the level of demand just isn't there. These homes that are getting listed are just not selling like they did in the previous 5 years for the month of September. So let's hop into the overall statistics for the whole city, and then what we'll do is we'll break it down by neighborhood like we always do. So let's start with the city of Peterborough. So like I said, we had 78 sales. That's down about 29% year over year. So sales have declined about 29%. In terms of new listings, we only saw 136 new listings. That's down about 1.5%. In terms of the average price, so the average price for a residential home clocked in for the month of September 2022 at $590,766. Now that average price is down about 11.3% year over year. So homes are about 11% cheaper than they were last year in September 2021. In terms of days to sell, we hit 27 days to sell on average for the month of September. That's up about 92%. So that's almost double what it was last year for the city of Peterborough. So these homes are taking a long time to sell. There's not as many sales. The average price has declined, and there's not as many listings as there were last year. This tends to be the consensus for September. We're not seeing a lot of activity. We're not seeing a lot of people listing their homes, and we're seeing even fewer people out there buying those homes, and the price has come down as a result. And these homes are just sitting almost a month on the market to sell. Now, in terms of, what it's like for the 5-year average, we're sitting around maybe 24, 25 days on average to sell in September. So it's not, crazy. It's just when we compare it to how quickly things were moving last year and the immediate difference that we can see year over year. Now, how does that compare to last month in August? Well, what's interesting is we saw almost 20 more sales last month in August. Listings stayed about the same. So the amount of listings for August came in at 131 listings, and there were 96 sales for the month. So listings were a little bit fewer, but sales increased. So again, that increased the absorption rate. So the absorption rate, I believe, for August was around 0.7, if you can believe it. And we dropped down to 0.56 the next month. Now, we did see an interest rate increase on September 7th. So maybe that had a bit of an impact on the market. Let's see what happens in October. In terms of the average price, we saw an average price in August at $632,777. Now we're sitting at $590,766. So we saw almost a $40,000 drop month over month on the average sale price for a residential home in the city of Peterborough. In terms of days to sell, those are really comparable. We saw 28 days to sell in August and 27 in September. So product is still, taking a long time to sell. It's taking a long time to move these homes. But this month, we saw that price decline. We saw the number of sales decline. Overall, we saw the number of activity decrease for residential real estate. Now let's talk about the central region of Peterborough. So the average price for central Peterborough clocked in at $484,220. That is a decline of about 17% year over year. If we look at the number of new listings, we saw 33 new listings for the month of September. That's up about 100%, so it's doubled roughly from last year. And the number of sales also increased from last year. So we're seeing a lot more activity in central Peterborough. Now, this could be because of the average price. It is definitely the cheapest place to own real estate in Peterborough. And on average, we saw 28 days to sell a home in central Peterborough. So they're taking a while to sell, but we did see sales and listings up. It's just that average price that really took a hit year over year, decreasing about 16%. Let's see what happens in October for central Peterborough. A crazy month for central Peterborough. A lot of activity for that part of the city. Gorgeous East City, we saw 14 new listings in September 2022. That's down about 41.66%. So not a lot of people listing their homes in central Peterborough. But of those 14 homes that got listed, we saw 12 sales, which is again down about 45% from last year. But we saw the absorption rate there. 14 new listings and 12 of them sold. So 2 of them were left on the market at the end of the month. In terms of the average price, we saw that take about a 2% decline, came in at about $578,733. So not really bad, about $580 for a home in eastern Peterborough. And on average, we saw 29 days to sell. Now, what's crazy about this, that's up about 107% from last year. 107%. That means it's more than doubled from last year. So it's taking twice as long for those homes to sell in eastern Peterborough. Moving on to Peterborough North. So the northern part of Peterborough, we saw an average price of $638,900. This is down about 5% year over year. We also saw 16 sales and 35 new listings. Sales are down about 46% and listings are down about 12%. And this part is crazy. It's up 212%. 212% year over year. That's the average days to sell a home in northern Peterborough in September. It clocked in at 25 days to sell. So product is not moving in northern Peterborough as fast as it did last year. Really what we see across the board, the number of sales are down for each region. Properties are just not selling like they did last year or even last month. In terms of southern Peterborough, again, a little bit of a smaller market. This is kind of comparable to the eastern part of Peterborough. Not a whole lot of listings or activity in southern Peterborough. We saw 9 listings and 11 sales. So we saw more sales than we did listings for the month of September. Because there's not a whole lot of activity and listings in southern or eastern Peterborough, once those properties get listed, they get scooped up like that. Now, in terms of the listing count, that's down about 25% year over year. In terms of the sales numbers, that's actually up 22% year over year. So, the number of sales actually increased for southern Peterborough. Maybe it's starting to get a little bit more desirable as it's really your second cheapest option besides central Peterborough, and you kind of really do get that isolation in southern Peterborough. You're not really right in the heart of the downtown like you are for central Peterborough. You're kind of, close to the 115. You're close to, commuting to work if you work in Durham. You're close to the river if you want to be, close to water. You have that with southern Peterborough. You've also kind of got your own little area. You're kind of a little bit detached from Lansdowne, so you don't, hear the hustle and bustle, but you're also close enough to Lansdowne where you can go get your groceries and you're close enough to amenities. So great spot in southern Peterborough. In terms of the average price, like I said, it came in pretty low. It's, the second lowest community to purchase in Peterborough, came in at $515,189. But what's shocking, that's up 18.5% year over year. So your home, on average, it costs about almost 20% more than it cost to buy a home last year in September 2021. Now, days to sell, we're seeing this across the board. That's up about 5.8%. That came in at 36 days to sell. So these properties are taking longer than a month to move. That average price is up. So it's actually, more expensive to buy there now than it was last year. But again, you're really in a great spot in Southern Peterborough where, it's the second cheapest neighborhood to buy in, but you're also kind of isolated in a great little community in Southern Peterborough. All right, guys, let's move on to the Peterborough West End. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful West End. The most, arguably the most expensive and prestigious neighborhood in Peterborough. The average price for September 2022 clocked in at $713,742. That is actually down about 5% year over year. In terms of the number of listings, we saw 45 listings. That's up about 15% year over year. But the number of sales almost got cut in half. It's down about 42%. And that came in at 19 sales. So there's a lot of listings in the West End of Peterborough. But, unfortunately, the way the market is right now, there wasn't a whole lot of sales. Only 19 sales, down about 42% year over year. Days to sell. This part is another crazy one. This is about 76%. It took 76% increase year over year on the days to sell. It came in at 23 days to sell. Now, I believe that is the lowest amount of days to sell out of all of the regions in Peterborough. But what's just crazy is the 76% increase year over year. We're just not seeing as much demand for housing overall that we did last year. And that is coming back in the number of sales for Western Peterborough. Again, only 19 sales, but 45 new listings. Overall thoughts on the market. I mean, this is just, it's bananas what's happening. You're just seeing not a lot of demand, and you're seeing people still continuing to list their house. And you'll see a lot of times when you're looking through the market, you'll see, price reduction, then it sells. Or you'll see, the neighbors sold for, $950,000 in Western Peterborough, and now you're listing at $850 literally 2 months later, and it doesn't sell. That's how crazy the real estate market is right now. There's just not a whole lot of demand. We're not seeing a lot of properties selling, and as a result, those prices are coming down and coming down and coming down and continuing to shrink. We're seeing that month over month. We're seeing that year over year. So let's see what happens. I mean, I believe there is a Bank of Canada meeting in October. I believe it's October 24th. And let's see what they do. I mean, it's taken a huge impact on housing already with these interest rate increases. We're seeing every time the interest rates go up, the amount of demand just keeps getting smushed. It keeps going down. It keeps going down. It keeps going down. So, and that's really impacting the prices because supply is really, staying the same or increasing as the demand goes down and the sales are going down. So those listings that are left on market at the end of the month, you're seeing 20 listings or 15 listings or 10 listings each region that's left on the market at the end of the month because they're not selling. So let's see what happens with these interest rate increases. It's impossible to really predict the market or what's going to happen. I mean, the word on the street is we're looking at, I believe, another half a point raise, so 0.5%. But who knows? I mean, they don't tell you ahead of time. It's just kind of what everybody thinks is going to happen. And then we see what happens realistically at the actual meeting. So let's see. I mean, is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? It completely depends on your situation. Do you have to move or are you looking to cash out? Again, completely depends on, what you bought it for, when you bought it, your future plans, what you're hoping to gain by moving and selling the property. I'm really looking forward to see what happens in October, and looking forward to see what happens with the residential real estate statistics for the city of Peterborough. That'll come out sometime, around the first week in November. Let's see what happens, guys. And if you have any ideas of what you guys think will happen, please comment below. Again, if you like this video, shoot me a like and subscribe over there or over there. And until next time, guys, I'm Alex Blancarn. This is Kitchen Table. Take care.